Yo, what is up everybody, and welcome back to another Madden 20 online CFM game. We are now in week 17, the regular season finale for the Miami Dolphins here in the 2020 season, here in the Premier Madden League. It is the regular season finale, but not the season finale. After last week's big win against the Denver Broncos, coupled with the Bills beating the New York Jets, the Miami Dolphins have clinched the number 5 seed in the AFC Conference. We can't go up, we cannot go down. We know we are playing on the road in Wildcard Weekend. The Indianapolis Colts have clinched the number 4 seed in the AFC Conference. They have won the AFC South. They cannot go any higher in the seeding. They know they are at least playing a home game on Wildcard Weekend. But if you know how playoff seeding works in the NFL, you might have recognized that the Indianapolis Colts will be hosting the Miami Dolphins for Wildcard Weekend next week. That matchup is already set. We know who we are playing next week with the season on the line. We also know who we are playing this week with absolutely nothing on the line for either teams. The Indianapolis Colts. Dolphins and Colts will be happening 2 weeks in a row. This week, nothing on the line. We're resting a couple of starters, Boston Scott, Jakeem Grant, and Josh Rosen, as we are underway with the 9-6 Colts and the 11-4 Miami Dolphins. And then next week, the season's on the line for both teams. So right away, that's going to be intercepted by Jerome Baker. But you have to know to not put any stock in this game. Well, not much stock into this game this week as far as what to expect next week, because neither team is really going to be running their true game plan. Both teams are going to be resting starters with the eye to next week and not really this week. This week, we don't even have our starting quarterback in. It's Khalil Tate on third down. Watch out. Here comes the rush. 66% of that Colts pass rush gets in pretty quickly, which is a bit sad because we blocked, I believe, 7 people. Joey Slye does get the field goal up and good, and yeah, this game is just going to be a free-for-all for both teams, I guess. We'll just see what happens, who can make plays out here. Obviously, you know, not everybody is resting. You see T.Y. Hilton's on the field, Eric Ebron. I'm not sure if the Colts are even resting anyone. Definitely not T.Y., who's got the catch, and he's got the wheels to get away from Berry and get the touchdown. So what makes the storyline all more interesting between the Colts and the Dolphins and what's happening in the next couple of weeks is that the Indianapolis Colts and the Miami Dolphins played in the playoffs last season. So next week we're going to have a playoff rematch from last year's AFC divisional round matchup where the Colts went into Miami and took down the number 2 seed Miami Dolphins. This time around, we have a chance at getting revenge, but we have to go on the road in Indianapolis as Khalil Tate gets his first completion of the game. Next play, Tate. He's got the time. He's got Aguilar, but the ball is batted back to him. 3rd down and 4. You see Aguilar's in at the starting running back position. Don't expect to see Boston Scott today. Probably do not expect to see Jordan Howard either. It's going to be a mix of Aguilar and Rakeem Boyd as Tate with the ball, but the protection breaks down nearly immediately. And right now, this pass rush by the Colts is dominating the game. Look at the pressure immediately up the middle, and this is troubling to look at. Even though this game does not mean much, look at Justin Houston. It's almost like a nanosack. He's in there immediately. It's not like this is going to change for Wildcard Weekend. We're going to have the same offensive line. The Colts are going to have the same defensive line next week. So right away, you know, like I said, this game is pretty meaningless, but there is a couple of things to learn as far as how our teams match up. And I'm taking notes in my notepad right now. I'm thinking to myself already, you know, when we come back next week, we're going to have a game plan where we have more quick passes out there or even run the ball more. Right now, we're going to be trying to pass the ball with Khalil Tate and see what he can do. But when we come back next week to Indianapolis, or, you know, we might as well just stay in Indianapolis. I don't think we're even going to be leaving the city once this game is over, since we got to be back here next week anyways. We'll have to adjust our game plan offensively and, you know, we'll show our actual game plan, I suppose. Right now, it's all about Khalil Tate trying to find Gesicki, but he just completely misses the mark. And Khalil Tate has had a pretty horrendous start to this game to the point where Josh Rosen is in the game. It is not fair to me that, you know, CeeDee Lamb and Colin Johnson, who are looking for targets out here, even Brashad Perriman, that they got to stick with Khalil Tate, who's not even completing passes. So, you know what? I've seen enough of Khalil Tate. To be honest with you guys, starting Khalil Tate this week was a little bit about next week, about whether Khalil Tate can play these Indianapolis Colts well and match up well. And if he did, Josh Rosen might have been riding the bench next week against the Indianapolis Colts. But, no, hold on a second. What is going on here on 3rd down and inches? Rosen is in motion. Is this a Philly special? Yes, it is. And it's going to work. Not for a touchdown, but it is a first down. Breshad Perriman to Josh Rosen. Now, Rosen back in that quarterback, trying to hook up with Colin Johnson, who cannot make the catch. Oh, 2nd down. That ball gets away from Rosen, and both quarterbacks struggling, which is weird because we are in a dome. 3rd down. Rosen good. Pocket, stepping, firing, and that's caught by Colin Johnson. The Dolphins back on top in what has been a pretty eventful first quarter. Rosen restoring the peace here for this Dolphins offense. So yeah, the Khalil Tate thing, I just want to see what he could do. And once I realized that Tate was really struggling and we are in a dome and he's missing passes, you know what? Khalil Tate, he's just not ready this season. We just cannot, throw Khalil Tate in there with the season on the line. It's not fair for the rest of the players. So Josh Rosen's back in for this game, and as long as he doesn't get hurt, he'll be back in next week as well. Obviously, we're not too concerned with Josh Rosen's health. We're not that worried about it because it's not like Josh Rosen is, Patrick Mahomes out here. If he gets hurt, I'm not really going to feel too bad, to be completely honest, as Jerome Baker gets plunder number 2 of the game. Throwing at Jerome Baker is a recipe for disaster if you're a quarterback. Baker, who is just all over the field this season, making tackles, getting sacks, getting interceptions. Here's CeeDee Lamb on the post. He's moving the offense to the 9-yard line. Oh, that was probably for the better that it wasn't thrown. I'm not even sure Colin Johnson was open. It is going to count as a sack for Justin Houston. 2nd down, Gesicki trucking a couple of Colts, falling forward, making it a 3rd down and somewhat manageable at the 5. Rosen once again against the 3-man rush of the Colts. Had the time, but not really anything open. Just try to throw it up there for Colin Johnson. Did not really work. And we take on our 2nd Joey Sly field goal of the game. Right now, like I said, we're just having fun out here, messing around. But one thing to know about the Colts this week that will be most likely different next week is the fact that Nyheim Hines is not on the field. You guys saw during the pregame when we were going through the Colts roster that Nyheim Hines is currently hurt. He has a, I believe, broken collarbone, the same injury Jordan Howard suffered earlier this season, and it says he's out for 2 more weeks. But Jordan Howard, as we know, with the broken collarbone, had a chance to come back a week early. We didn't bring Jordan Howard back, but you better believe if the Colts get that option with Nyheim Hines next week, they're going to do it because Nyheim Hines is that much of a game changer. We saw that in last season's playoffs, so that's definitely going to be a storyline to follow as we get closer and closer to wildcard weekend. Xavier Howard on fire. Somehow does not make a play on the ball. It's going to be a Colts first down, so yeah, we will be monitoring the health of Nyheim Hines. I'm fully expecting to see Hines back healthy for the playoffs, so we're definitely going to have to game plan for the Colts as if they're going to be a run-heavy team as opposed to what they are doing right now, trying to pass the ball a lot and trying to pass the ball. Not really working. Besides the one big play downfield to T.Y. Hilton, we are for the most part just locking up out here. And like I said, it's a promising sign somewhat. Like, it's cool, but you just cannot put too much stock into this game except for the fact that our offensive line is continuing to get shredded by Curtis Weaver, I believe that is. Like, we can't be doing that. 2nd down and 22. We're going to pretty much max protect. There are only 3 on the route. That's going to allow Rosen the time to find Colin Johnson. 3rd down. The Colts sticking with this 3-man rush, but this time we find the crease to Colin Johnson. But there's an injury to Breshad Perriman, who wasn't even targeted on the play. So that's interesting. And of course, Breshad Perriman is only getting the start this week because we are resting Jakeem Grant. So that's interesting, as Khalil Tate subbing into the game momentarily for a read option. Now it's Rosen back in the game. That's all trickery, all play action, all window dressing for the main course, which is CeeDee Lamb. He's got the first down right before the 2-minute warning. Rosen moving, throwing, finding Gesicki, jumping over a man and into the end zone is Mike Gesicki, who in this regular season finale might be having his best game of the season. Gesicki was a bigger part of the offense last season for the Dolphins. This season, with both Colin Johnson and CeeDee Lamb working their way into the fold, along with the number of touches Jakeem Grant pretty much needs every single week, Gesicki hasn't really seen that many targets, but Gesicki might be making a case for himself to be a part of the game plan more for wildcard weekend. So we'll keep an eye on that. Even though, we're messing around, we're also trying out a couple of plays, a couple of concepts that, we probably would have not done if this Week 17 game had more on the line, both offensively and defensively, that if these concepts work this week, why not try him next week? Because if the Colts don't have any answers for stopping what we're doing this week, it doesn't mean they know how to stop it and they'll do it next week, right? Unless they're just clearly tanking out here. And at the same time, we're just trying stuff out. So, put it all in the notepad. Even though the game means nothing, there might be a lot more on the line than you may think, as that's going to be caught by Nelson Agholor. First timeout called in this first half by the Dolphins. Rosen on 2nd down and 1 takes a costly sack. Oh man, this Colts pass rush continues to dominate. 3rd down, 3-man rush yet again. Rosen rolling. This time we have just enough time to locate CeeDee Lamb, who is having quite the game in this first half. CeeDee Lamb is definitely working himself some touches here. Next play, back to Lamb, middle of the field, CeeDee Lamb all the way to the 11-yard line, and that puts us in field goal range. But the kicking unit's now on the field, only 4 seconds left, no timeouts. This will be the last play of the first half, and it has to go to the end zone, and done it will to CeeDee Lamb. It's a CD TD as time expires. Oh wow, the Miami Dolphins truly throwing caution out through the window this week. And of course, as Nelson Agholor gets a nice spin move off here. How about this return for Agholor? He nearly broke it all the way. But yeah, obviously in a game that had any sort of meaning in it, I would have kicked the field goal there. No brainer. There's no reason to be going for that play in the final play of the first half. But in this random game, I don't really care about field goals. Like, we already have, we're going to have like a 13-point lead or something like that at the time. I don't really need that. Like, let's just try to extend it. Let's see what can happen. Let's get Colin Johnson or CeeDee Lamb involved. And right now, I'm having a lot of fun locating CeeDee Lamb and working Lamb into different concepts of our passing game, and maybe thinking of ways to carve out a bigger role for CeeDee Lamb for Wildcard Weekend. And, hopefully beyond that if we get the win in Wildcard Weekend. So, once again, this game means absolutely nothing, but it also has a lot more writing on the line than you may think, as Jerome Baker gets the sack right there on the screen pass attempt. Next play, McMillan had a beat on that ball, but it's going to be T.Y. Hilton making the big play. Of course, the Colts, I said these teams are going to be resting starters. I don't really know if the Colts are actually resting anybody. Brissett's still in the game. T.Y. still in the game. Paris Campbell's still in the game. Here's Andrew Killens, the backup running back, who might be the starting running back if Naheem Hines is not ready for Wildcard Weekend, as Brissett in the corner is going to be intercepted by Xavier Howard. X with the ball, and X takes it out near the end zone to the 19-yard line. Here comes the blitz. Rosen finding Lamb. Yet again, it's CeeDee Lamb getting a big gain. What a breakout game for CeeDee Lamb, who had an impressive debut in his first ever game against the Kansas City Chiefs. He got a touchdown, but since then, it's been pretty silent for him. It's been a lot more about Colin Johnson this season, and of course Jakeem Grant. But today, with no Grant on the field, CeeDee Lamb is off to the races. Lamb with the stiff arm to the 18-yard line, and CeeDee Lamb is working himself to a potential 1,000-yard receiving season. It was an outside shot that CeeDee Lamb got 1,000 yards, but with a game like this, CeeDee Lamb might have actually gotten himself over 1,000 yards in his rookie season. So this is quite the game. 3rd down and 9. I'm definitely looking for CeeDee Lamb right here. He's not open, and we end up taking the sack from Jabal Shear. That was just a straight-up coverage sack right there. Plus, we rolled out the pocket with Rosen nearly immediately anyways, and we end up taking our, I believe, 3rd field goal with Joey Sly. At this point, 30-7. It's pretty unlikely that the Indianapolis Colts make a comeback in this game, especially since they're not going to be going 100%. So just freestyling here in these final couple of minutes of the regular season, having some fun. At this point, we might, think about just taking out all of the defensive starters for the rest of this game. Xavier Howard still on fire as T.Y. Hilton makes the catch right there. Jacoby Brissett, not a great game with 3 interceptions. Meanwhile, Josh Rosen, who has come in relief, has almost 400 yards passing, so keep that in mind as Minkah Fitzpatrick jumps the drag, and there he goes! Minkah to the crib again! It's touchdown number 4 of the season for Minkah Fitzpatrick, who matches his defensive touchdown count from last season, even though Minkah only has half the interceptions from last season. That was number 8 of the season for Minkah. he is still finding a nose for the end zone once he gets the ball in his hands. As here's Jacoby Brissett downfield, and that is going to be intercepted as well. How about Bryce Hall with the ball, trying to find the lane, and Hall eventually is tackled by Jacoby Brissett. Man, oh man, how about the rookie class for the Miami Dolphins? CeeDee Lamb with a tremendous game. Derek Brown inside has been a force all season. Bryce Hall, who now has, 13 or 14 interceptions this season? Absolutely absurd. Colin Johnson, who has obviously been making plays all season for us. And Malik Harrison, who is a superstar pass rusher, leading our team in sacks this season. And these guys are continuing to show up. But of course, we need them to show up in the playoffs. That's a whole nother story. We'll see what they bring when everything is on the line. Right now, with nothing on the line, we're up 40-7, feeling all good, feeling all gravy. By the way, in case you guys are wondering why this video is so long, once this game is over, we will be going over all of the regular season stats once the regular season is over. So, you know, you guys will actually see it's going to be a wildcard weekend set at the time from when I recorded it, as Xavier Howard drops the interception. It's actually going to be a penalty here on us, pass interference, so it's going to be a first down for the Colts. So, yeah, you guys can see all the regular season stats from all the teams who led the league in passing yards and rushing yards and receiving yards and all sorts of touchdowns. See who won all of the awards. See if any of our Miami Dolphins won awards. You got to think, you know, Jerome Baker and Bryce Hall got to be in contention for some of these things, as 3rd down and 2, that's going to be caught by Paris Campbell. Still on the field here in a 40-7 game. Jacoby Brissett with 5 interceptions. He's still firing out here. Most of our defensive starters are still in because I'm kind of too lazy to sub them out at this point as T.Y. gets the catch. But T.Y. is hurt. T.Y. Hilton is injured in a 40-7 meaningless game. Oh, you better hope if you're a Colts fan that is not going to be a multiple week injury, because that would be perhaps the dumbest injury to take ever. Like, this game is over. This game doesn't even mean anything if it wasn't over, as Brissett finds Ebron for the touchdown. Yeah, I mean, thankfully for the Colts, it's only going to be a strain for T.Y. Hilton. He's not going to be out for long. But if you guys remember the Brashad Perriman injury, he's going to be out for multiple weeks. Brashad Perriman, I don't even know how he got injured. Like, I never saw it. Like, he was literally not even targeted on the play. But he's going to be out for at least a month. So we're going to probably have to throw Brashad Perriman on the IR heading into the playoffs and put that roster spot for someone else. Brashad Perriman was the wide receiver 5 for us, so it's not a big loss. He was behind Sanu, Colin Johnson, Jakeem Grant, and CeeDee Lamb on the depth chart. But a very random injury to take in a very random way as we continue to wind down the regular season here. At this point, obviously, we're just chewing clock. I'd love to try to break records with Rosen, but, you know, this game got out of hand after all the Jacoby Brissett interceptions. And speaking of Jacoby Brissett interceptions, I think we learned one more thing about the Colts, is that, you know, as long as we can get them away from the ground game, especially if Hines is playing next week, bottle up Naheem Hines and force Jacoby Brissett to pass this ball, there are mistakes that can be made here. Like, there are passes that the Colts will force that we might be able to take advantage of. So, one more time, we're just writing things down in the notebook, right? Just continuing to jog down memories and work ourselves a game plan for next week. And at this point, I think we've exhausted all of those options as the game is nearly over. Bryce Hall getting a sack, because why not, I suppose. Underneath, it's going to be Andrew Killins, the rookie out of UCF. Look at him go for the touchdown. All right, Killins, killing it out there. Pun intended, as you see, Greg the Leg is the kicker for the Indianapolis Colts. He's wearing the famous number 4 that Adam Vinatieri wore his whole career, but it's actually Greg the Leg who has made his way from the Rams to the Colts in this CFM, as we have Ryan Fitzpatrick kneeing the ball one more time for the regular season. So that'll do it for our regular season. The Miami Dolphins will finish with a 12-4 record, a better record than we had last season with our first season with the Miami Dolphins. So I suppose there was improvement there, but the problem is we did not even win our division despite the better record. The Bills are going to end up being 13-3, so they end up getting I believe they got the 1 seed in the AFC. It's the Bills and the Chiefs who are going to get first round byes, so, you know, those are teams to look ahead on whoever wins this Colts and Dolphins matchup. So you see Brashad Perriman, who threw a pass during the Philly special play that we ran. Khalil Tate with a not-so-great 1-for-6 passing effort. Meanwhile, Josh Rosen, how about the game Rosen had? You know, Josh Rosen, every single time you write him off, He comes back like a cockroach, man. He always comes back for more somehow, some way. CeeDee Lamb, 12 catches, 224 yards. Pretty insane. And that effort is actually going to indeed get CeeDee Lamb over 1,000 yards receiving for this season. Unfortunately, Colin Johnson is going to fall about under 100 yards short, but CeeDee Lamb and Jakeem Grant both 1,000-yard receivers for our Dolphins at the end of the day. You guys will see more of those stats as we hop into that stat sheet section. So, yeah, they wanted me to rest Nelson Aguilar. I don't know why. Like, he was number 4 on the depth chart. I didn't care if I rested him or not. But, yeah, I will now transition to going to the regular season stats. It's time to look at some end of season stats. A lot of you guys have been requesting this in the comment section the last couple of videos, so here we are, end of the regular season. We're going to start off by looking at all the division standings, and then we'll look at individual player stats. So we'll start off division by division, going through the AFC North, where you see the Cincinnati Bengals, even though they faced some heat by the Browns, end up comfortably winning the North. You check out the AFC South, where the Colts comfortably win. The Jaguars got up to a good start, but ultimately they fall short. Remember, we have the Houston Texans as first, second, and third round picks. Keep that in mind as we continue to go through these standings. The AFC East had 3 teams finish at least 10-6. One of these teams, the Jets, did not make the playoffs. The Jets finished as the 7th best team in the AFC, and they missed out the playoffs, so that's a tough one. You check out the AFC West, the Chargers ended up getting the 6th seed over the New York Jets, also finishing 10-6. The Chiefs end up getting a first-round bye as the number 2 seed. The Broncos, after that Week 16 loss, they kind of go into a tailspin, end up 8-8. As we check out the NFC North, probably, the most well-balanced division. Everybody had close to a 500 record. Of course, the Bears have never lost yet in this CFM. They have won, 32 straight regular season games and then 3 playoff games last season. The Lions, though, 13-3, not a bad record considering 2 of those losses were to the Bears. You check out the Falcons, they end up getting the 2 seed in the NFC conference, so they got a first round bye along with the Bears. The Buccaneers end up finishing 0-16. Okay, not sure how that happens. The Giants, 13-3, actually end up as a wild card team as the 3 seed, so that's a tough one for them. As you check out the Washington Redskins, also making the playoffs. The Redskins ended up making the playoffs over the Dallas Cowboys in a win and get in Week 17 game between the 2 teams. And finally, we check out the NFC West, where the Cardinals mercifully win this division because someone had to, and I suppose the 6-10 Cardinals get the job done. So as you guys see these final standings out here, this gives you a little bit of intel on what draft positioning may look like. This is not a final look at draft positioning, but you can kind of tell, obviously the Buccaneers are going to have the number 1 pick. Us having the Texans' first round pick, that could end up being a top 5 pick considering strength of schedule, since the Texans' schedule was not that tough. Now it's time to dive into some individual player stats, and then we'll go through player awards and maybe even team stats. So as we check out the top quarterbacks in the season, we have Daniel Jones and Derek Carr both breaking the 5,000-yard barrier. But along with the touchdown passes, which Daniel Jones had 52 of them, there were also a lot of interceptions. Derek Carr specifically having 63 interceptions, by far setting an NFL single season record. The rookie Bryce Perkins doing his thing out there for the Cincinnati Bengals. You see a lot of young quarterbacks. And then you'll finally scroll down and you'll see Josh Rosen, whose stats got hindered because we benched him for the parts of the 2nd and 3rd game of the season. Or else we probably could have had Rosen at a 4,000-yard season. And you'll see touchdown passes. You got the same faces up here for the most part. Dak Prescott pretty high in touchdown passes, and one of the few quarterbacks it seems like that had more touchdown passes than interceptions. You'll see, Darnold, another one of these guys, and you could definitely attribute team success to, limiting interceptions. And then we check out quarterback rating, which is a little bit flawed here because you see like some guys who have thrown 1 pass all season. You can tell the top quarterbacks: Trubisky, Rosen, Daniel Jones, not Brand Holly, Matt Ryan, Darnold, Perkins, Cousins, Sam Darnold, all but over 100 passer ratings for the season. The rushing stats: no one went for over 3,000 yards this season, but Melvin Gordon and Ito Smith both over 2,000 yards rushing. Melvin Gordon, the rushing champion. You see Tony Pollard, who took over for Ezekiel Elliott, who got injured midseason. He took the job and ran away with it. You check out Nick Chubb, had a good season. The rookie Etienne, I still gotta figure out how to pronounce that name. As you see AJ Dillon out here doing his thing, Ty Johnson, Saquon Barkley, a lot of 1,000-yard rushers. And then you have a couple of guys that fell just short. Lamar Jackson up there, of course. And then you see our guy Boston Scott, who only played part of the season, didn't have as many carries as most of these guys, but still had what, almost 800 yards rushing as you check out the touchdown leaders. Sony Michel leading for the New England Patriots. Not a surprise if you watched any of the games we played against the Patriots. Also, guys that racked up touchdowns, Devontae Freeman, who got traded to the Philadelphia Eagles in the offseason. He had a lot of touchdowns, but also had a lot of fumbles. Ito Smith also had 4 fumbles. You see Barkley, who's been hurt for part of the season, still racking up touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, who will get into some of his successes later on in this rundown as we go to the receiving stats. The leader in receptions, you got a lot of people. You got T. Higgins, you got Tamari and Terry, a lot of young guys, Calvin Ridley, and then you got your Robbie Andersons and Jakeem Grant, Anthony Miller up there, Henry Ruggs, the rookie, also one of the top receivers total as far as yardage. You guys check this one out. A lot of 1,000 yards receivers as well. From season 1 to season 2 into CFM, there definitely were a lot more 1,000 yard passers and receivers and like higher passing stats than last season, especially with 2 guys going over 5,000 yards. You see all the guys with over 1,000 yards receiving, including CeeDee Lamb. After that amazing final game, CeeDee Lamb went over 1,000 yards. Shout out to McCole Hardman and T.Y. Hilton for just getting that in. Of course, T.Y. got hurt in that final game, so, you know, he really put it all on the line. Then you see a couple of guys that fell short, including Colin Johnson, but no worries. Colin Johnson found the end zone 11 times, which is one of the top stats in the league. You got Julio Jones and Will Fuller leading this category. The Falcons definitely airing that ball out. You got Ruggs up there. You got Sammy Watkins. You got a couple of Giants receivers to be expected. Amari Cooper catching some of those Dak Prescott passes. Jakeem Grant with 13 touchdown receptions, and you know some of those were jet sweeps, and you scroll on and on. Mike Thomas had a great season. He made the Pro Bowl. Not much to look at offensive line, obviously. You see some guys that are giving up a lot of sacks, some of that's on the quarterback, some of that's on the offensive line. You check out now defensive stats, where Jerome Baker led the league in total tackles, solo plus assisted combined. As far as solo tackles, period, this guy, Charles Snowden, the rookie, the Snowman, ended up leading the league in solo tackles. And you guys see some of the top tackle guys in the league. Couple of 100 tackle seasons put up together. You got, I believe we'll find, Raekwon McMillan in here with 90 tackles for our Miami Dolphins. You scroll on and on. Tackles for losses led by Leighton Vander Esch. As you can look across the stat line, Leighton Vander Esch, definitely a top guy in this league. Montez Sweat, a Madden phenom, I should say, 6'6" with that speed and all that stuff. Snowden out here, you gotta expect Snowden, I suppose. And then eventually you scroll down and you'll find our guy, Derrick Brown, the rookie, with 18 tackles for losses. And also Vic Beasley with 17. Vic Beasley putting together 11 sacks. He was not the leading sack guy by far this season. Joey Bosa and Von Miller had a race to break the single season sack record that was set last season by this guy, Khalil Mack, who followed up last season with a modest 35.5. Dante Fowler, 31.5. Like, these are just ridiculous stat lines out here. We got so many guys that broke Michael Strahan's previous single season sack record. And then you scroll down eventually and you'll find our leading sack guy this season, Malik Harrison, as you eventually scroll down and see some more guys. Defensive stats continue with the interceptions now. Eddie Jackson ties. Does not break Minkah Fitzpatrick's single season stat from last season. My phone's blowing up right now. I apologize for that. But yeah, Eddie Jackson, 16 interceptions this season, just like Minkah last year. Darren Lee with 15. Our rookie Bryce Hall with 14. Darius Big Play Slay with 13. Adams with 13. Lattimore and Jerome Baker with 11. How about the season Jerome Baker put together? This is absolutely phenomenal. This guy's all over the place. As you will eventually see a couple of more members of our secondary. Eric Berry with 9 interceptions. And then you scroll down and you find Minkah Fitzpatrick with 8 interceptions. So definitely a lot of ball hawks in that Miami Dolphins secondary as you scroll around and see some interception, return yardage, and all that stuff for whatever it's worth. Deflection, some guys that weren't exactly getting the INTs, but were making plays on the ball. You scroll down a little bit and you'll find Minkah Fitzpatrick among, some of the top guys out here, and more guys that did interceptions. I don't really know what this catches and allows stuff is all about. Like, I feel like this is a really inconsistent stat, so we're not really going to look at that one too much. Forced fumbles. You can definitely tell some guys that have tackling abilities like Keanu Neal, Devin Bush in this CFM, Bobby Wagner, Harrison Smith, Luke Kuechly. Not a coincidence, all of these guys are either like great pass rushers or guys that have Enforcer as a superstar ability leading the league. That's just to be expected. Fumble recoveries, who's around the ball at the right time, I suppose. Teammates of people that have Enforcer or secure tackle and all that stuff. Fumble return yards, for whatever it's worth, right? I believe X is somewhere. Yeah, there he is, at 48. Blocks, they won't actually show Thomas Graham, who blocked the field goal for us in a very clutch time against the Cardinals. I don't know, not all the players are loaded up on this page, so take it for what it's worth. You see guys that got safeties this season. We actually had 2 guys early in the season collect safeties, Jerome Baker in that big game against the 49ers, and then we had Vic Beasley as well. Defensive touchdowns. Who was returning kicks or returning picks and fumbles and all that good stuff? You actually had Minkah Fitzpatrick on top by himself, and a couple other members of that ball-hawking Dolphins secondary like Eric Berry, Xavier Howard. You got X is up there as well. You see Shazier as far as players of other teams that took the ball back a couple of times. You guys want to check out kicking stats? Why not? We can check out kicking stats, see who is booting that ball, and maybe you can laugh at someone who hasn't been booting the ball. Our guy Joey Sly. Remember, his only missed field goal was a field goal against the Kansas City Chiefs in the very first game of the season when we took like that 60-yard field goal. Took a long shot at it, didn't quite work out for us, and some guys struggled out here, including Matt Gay, Zane Gonzalez. Not some great percentages out there. Lambo, Elliott all struggled a little bit. Punting stats, because why not? Net average is probably the best stat you want to check out for punters. So our guy Matt Hawk, I always say Hack, it's Hawk. He had a decent season. Last year he made the Pro Bowl. I don't know what it will take for Hawk to make the Pro Bowl, but maybe he'll make the Pro Bowl again. Who knows? We gotta wait for those Pro Bowl rosters to come out, of course, when the Pro Bowl game actually happens itself. As you check out kick return stats, we'll just see who was returning kicks for touchdowns. Dorsett and Patterson with 2 apiece. A couple of guys out here with 1. Miami Dolphins had no one return any kicks or punts for touchdowns. Special teams wasn't really in the cards this season, I suppose, as you check out. Only 3 punt return touchdowns this season, 1 by the Falcons, 1 by the Cowboys, and 1 by the Tennessee Titans. Now let's slide over and check out some yearly awards. Let's see who took home the trophies. We start up with the NFL MVP, which goes to Melvin Gordon for going for over 2,000 yards rushing. Daniel Jones, a solid second with that over 5,200 yard passing season. 52 touchdown passes. For my money, Daniel Jones is probably worth more than that Melvin Gordon season, just because rushing is kind of easy this year. And then you got these top pass rushers, Bosa and Von Miller, Nick Chubb, one more pass rusher, Khalil Mack, Tony Pollard, Zeke, who signed that big money contract, watching his backup take all the shine, Mitch Trubisky, of course, on that 16-0 Bears team, sneaking in there, Coach of the Year. Not too surprising that, the 16-0 Bears coach ended up winning the award. Shout out to our guy for getting 5th. I just made up that name, by the way. If you want to know what Bobby Bones is, I literally made that name up on the fly when I was creating this, team, the Dolphins. I had to make up a coach name. I just made up Bobby Bones off the top of my head. Offensive Player of the Year for the AFC. We'll do AFC, then NFC. So we actually have no players on our team on this top list. You see a couple of rookies up here. Of course, Melvin Gordon, the MVP, is going to be on top here. Chubb, a lot of running backs up here. Top 5, all running backs, 6 of the top 7. Defensive Player of the Year, no surprise that Von Miller and Joey Bosa are up there. And then you got Jerome Baker's very impressive season, along with Darren Lee, the top 2 middle linebackers in the season, 3rd and 4th. And then you got the rookie Snowden, 5th. Fowler with that big sack, with 30+ sacks, 6th. How about Bryce Hall, 7th out there. Chase Young, 8th. The number 1 overall pick from the draft, Josh Allen and Jamal Adams. Offensive Rookie of the Year goes to Travis Etienne. I'll get that name right one day. It's not going to be today. Jonathan Taylor ends up finishing 2nd. You see a lot of these rookies that had huge performances. And then you got the back end where you got Colin Johnson and CeeDee Lamb. Colin Johnson, 1st round pick. CeeDee Lamb, early 2nd round pick for us. Defensive Player of the Year. Bryce Hall came close, but you guys saw the stats that Snowden was putting up, so he ends up barely winning Rookie of the Year over Bryce Hall. Chase Young, also very impressive 3rd. Delpit, who had a lot of plays on the ball, interceptions, tackles, all that good stuff. He's going to be in the top 5 as well. You also see 2 more Miami Dolphins, Malik Harrison and Derek Brown. So all 5 of our top picks from this year's draft finish in the top 10 in their respective defensive or just Rookie of the Year races. So that means we drafted pretty decent, right? Best quarterback, Bryce Perkins, the rookie. Shout out to the Cincinnati Bengals for turning that situation up, getting that passing game going. Darnold finishes 2nd, Brissett 3rd. Our guy Josh Rosen 4th. Derek Carr, despite all those interceptions, finishes 5th. And you scroll down to see the rest of the top 10, top running backs. Once again, a lot of the same faces that you've been seeing in some of these MVP-like lists out here. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Top wide receiver, Will Fuller, who was the top receiver throughout the season. No surprise there, though. Him beating out Tamari and Terry may be a bit of a surprise. Some of these rookies up here, AJ Green. Our guy, Jakeem Grant. Shout out to Jakeem for You know, always sneaking his way into the top 10 best wide receivers for absolutely no reason. You see Watkins and Goodwin of the Bills backing it up. And then speaking of the Bills, you got Travis Kelce, Jason Kelce as a top offensive lineman for the AFC. Scroll down. I don't know how they determine top offensive lineman, but apparently Marcus Gilbert ended up 8th. I don't know how. Like, he has not really been a top offensive lineman for us, but sure, we'll take it, I suppose. Top defensive lineman, no surprise, Joey Bosa, but you see JJ Watt, Chris Jones, a lot of top guys you'd expect to be up here. Shout out to Farrell, the number 4 overall pick from the draft in 2019, turning up for the Raiders in real life in his 2nd season. You see Melvin Ingram along with Joey Bosa both in this top 10. That's pretty scary. You can definitely tell why the Chargers made it into the playoffs. Best linebacker, Jerome Baker, Darren Lee. Unfortunately missed out against some of these pass rushers that are outside linebackers, Von Miller and Dante Fowler. You got Snowden in 5th place, Young in 6th. Same faces. You got Bradley Chubb, so that's 2 Broncos up there. Defensive back race ends up going to Bryce Hall. For the 2nd time this season, we have a Miami Dolphin as the top defensive back. Last year, it was Micah Fitzpatrick, who still finishes in the top 10 as the 9th best defensive back. The Miami Dolphins have 3 players in the top 10 for defensive backs. The the Denver Broncos had 2 themselves. So the Broncos defense and the Dolphins defense taking home some accolades, best kicker award, however they determined this. Not too sure how. Let's go over to the NFC now, where we will start with Offensive Player of the Year, going to Tony Pollard. Shout out to Tony Pollard for beating out Ito Smith, who went for over 2,000 yards. Trubisky, the 16-0 Bears, couldn't quite get it done. Of course, Ty Johnson on that 13-3 Lions team. Daniel Jones actually 6th here, even though he was 2nd in MVP. Sure, I don't exactly know what the formula is for all that, but still be it as we go to Defensive Player of the Year. Khalil Mack with those, monster sack numbers. He'll get it. Leighton Vander Esch with his great season in the top 5. Eddie Jackson with those 16 interceptions. Surprising he's not number 1, but you know how those pass rushers love to stack up their stats. A lot of Cowboys. I believe we saw 3 Cowboys in that top 10. Offensive Rookie of the Year goes to A.J. Dillon. You got DeAndre Swift up here. Justin Herbert ended up getting drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you guys are wondering where Joe Burrow is, by the way, Joe Burrow got drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. And obviously they have Patrick Mahomes. So Joe Burrow actually just did not really play this season. So he didn't really do anything in this CFM. As you guys check out the Defensive Rookie of the Year race being won by Isaiah Simmons. Davion Taylor, that was like a 6th-round draft pick by the Bears. So, a lot of interesting names popping up here for Defensive Rookie of the Year. And like the AFC, which is names that you might actually recognize. Like, I don't really recognize most of those names. Best quarterback ends up going to Daniel Jones, just over Trubisky. Matt Ryan leading those Falcons up there as well. You see the rest of these quarterbacks. We bump down to best running back, Tony Pollard. Ty Johnson also being out. Ito Smith out here. Devontae Freeman. You got A.J. Dillon, the offensive rookie. You got Saquon Barkley, who had a bit of an injury-riddled season, along with Tariq Cohen, who was the leading rusher last year, but he's also had an injury-riddled season. So some of the top guys, not staying consistent out here, which is the way the NFL goes. Even in these CFMs, you see the best wide receivers, both on the Falcons, Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones. See Anthony Miller down there, some familiar faces, of course. When we talk about best wide receivers, it's no surprise that the top rated guys will end up on top. Same with the offensive line stuff. Moving on. Best defensive lineman ends up going to Lorenzo Carter, I believe. Carter, you can put him at outside linebacker, defensive end. Defensive end on the Giants, so he'll take that award. Cam Jordan, a lot of the top guys you expect. Ioannidis. I don't know if you guys remember that game we played against the Redskins last year when Ioannidis tore us apart, so I'm not surprised to see Ioannidis up there. Let me tell you. Familiar names up here for best linebacker. A lot of names we've already seen throughout numerous awards, so we won't spend too much time on that. Trey Flowers is an outside linebacker, apparently. We got best defensive back, fittingly going to Eddie Jackson and Darius Slay and Lattimore. Top guys you'd expect to be up here. And then, you got a couple of interesting names on the bottom half of the top 10. Best kicker, sure, Jonathan Brown, funky hair. Do you, my guy? Do you? So, what are we going to do? We're going to look at team stats. You guys care about team stats? We'll scroll really quickly through the team stats because I'm about to lose my ability to speak at this point. Talking for how many straight minutes. You guys see top rushing teams, top passing teams, all that good stuff. Top scoring teams out here. Our team, after a very slow start, ends up being one of the top 10, point scorers in the league, whether that's from our offense or by our defense. Point scored is points scored. And then check out the first down stat. Last season, we were at the bottom of the first downs, and we're actually towards the bottom once again. So, a little sneaky stat about your Miami Dolphins. They don't get many first downs. Defensive stats is where you'll see the Dolphins definitely shine as far as total yards, passing yards, rushing yards. The Bears are number 1 in all these categories, but you see our Dolphins are up there for pretty much most of these things. The Broncos had a great season. Points allowed, nearly having less points allowed than Chicago Bears is quite the feat. You see the Bears and Dolphins defenses have really been the class of the field as far as, points allowed out here. As you check out, sacks, that's the least sacks. We won't see who's gotten the most sacks, and of course, you expect teams with good pass rushers to be up here. Our Dolphins with 55, which is definitely an improvement from last season when, we weren't getting many sacks because we had nobody rushing the passer. We still don't have many big names, but we eke it out. We get it out, man. We get a couple of these sacks from like Harrison and Vic Beasley. And our Dolphins get the most interceptions forced this season, just beating out the Bears, the Lions, the Broncos. So there's a reason why we had so many guys up there for the top defensive back intercept, or just interceptions in total. You check out some third down conversion stats. I don't think we need to look through all this stuff, right? I think we're good. We're good. So that will do it for this end of season run. That I'll do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed all of this. Subscribe for more Madden 20 gameplays, and I'll catch you guys next time for the playoffs.